Now, we're not talking about a pregnancy that's due to rape, but now about a pregnancy that's due to a consensual act, but in which neither willing partner were interested in producing a baby. Either they were stupid or their birth control failed or something else, right? The fact is that men and women are different. And again, every human being has ever recognized this. And it's just in the last 2 minutes in human history, not even so, that some number of people have been gleefully pretending that that's not the case. But that when such a situation happens, it is one and only one of the two people who are participating on whom the entire brunt rests, right? And that is unfair, and it's real. And there's nothing to be done about the unfairness. Men and women are different.
It is biologically unfair.
It is biologically unfair, and biology has handed us some number of things that render us different. And in some cases, that difference actually makes us unequal. That's just true. Mm-hmm. And with regard to the sexes, which there are many places where we can talk about this. I've talked elsewhere in here as well about differences in interests, greater variability in intelligence in men compared to women, but same average intelligence. And different amount of like myelination in the brain, different sizes of corpus callosums, like so many things besides the totally obvious things that every human being has ever noticed. So, okay, that's true. It takes two to tango. It takes two to make a pregnancy. And then we have the pregnancy is only manifest in the woman. So this is a feminist issue in that it's not just a woman's issue. It's a human issue that pertains to men as well. But it is a feminist issue in that we should be figuring out how to decrease the number of unwanted pregnancies as much as possible. Allow women who find themselves in the position of having gotten into an unwanted pregnancy a way to get out of that as early as possible, with the understanding that the woman did not get herself into that situation on her own. There was a man involved as well, so that not just men who are free and clear once they maybe make a mistake that results in a pregnancy, but women too can move forward with greater wisdom, with greater caution, and with still the capacity to make the difference in the world that they want to make.
I believe that that's right, and I believe that we make this argument in a different way in our book, and I think really this is the point about the middle ground here, which is you and I are not, we will be understood to be arguing for some return to the past, and that is exactly not what we are arguing. We are arguing for a renegotiation. And the problem is we had a very naive renegotiation, or maybe a total failure to negotiate anything at the sexual revolution, where it just became a free-for-all that has brought us to this absurd and exploitative moment in history in which...
Let's let women behave like men at their worst.
Right, exactly, which doesn't make women happy.
Let's actually, because you did, and you said this before, like we aren't, like let, for sure, but... Let's encourage, right? Like let's really push for everyone to behave like I won't say it, but men at their worst, right? Yeah, no, why would we do that? Why would we encourage newly bad behavior, like the bad behavior that one sex is already engaging in? Sometimes, why would we try to spread that around?
It's not even encourage. We actually make women feel bad if they're not into the idea of casual sex, even though the reason, the irony here, and one of the reasons that you have to take a evolutionary, biological perspective, not to figuring out what to do next, but to understanding how we ended up here, right? The fact is, in fact, I saw Claire Lehman say on Twitter yesterday that basically if you... she was talking to men and she said something like, if you're the kind of man who would fuck a woman that you wouldn't want to marry if she got pregnant and you oppose abortion, you're a hypocrite. Now, I don't actually disagree with what I think she's trying to say, but the word hypocrite doesn't belong in there, because the fact is men are wired to try to impregnate women who will not require them to invest. it's something we should oppose. It's utterly immoral. But the point is that is actually an evolutionary wiring, and women are wired to prevent men from getting away with it, right? And this actually, irony of ironies, produces the asymmetry in men and women that actually causes all of the intrigue around romance, right? This is, it's a very ugly way for this dynamic to get started. But the point is actually a lot of the richness of human existence is downstream of this, right? Forcing bad men to reveal their intent and therefore limiting your choices to good men who are interested in investing in you long term is, that's what courtship is about. And so in any case, I don't know how we have this discussion if we have to pretend that's not true. Right? The asymmetry exists. It's handed to us from a long lineage of ancestors. It is modified radically at the point that that control of birth becomes a conscious choice due to technology.
Well, this is obviously a much longer conversation, but there's a conflation between fast, easy sex that's in front of me and sexual pleasure. Mm-hmm. And the conflation results both in the confusion that you're talking about right now, that if you yourself say, you know what, casual sex not for me, you are understood to be a prude who actually isn't interested in sexual pleasure. Similarly, at least one more example of this, although I think there are likely to be many, is, and this is true, I think, more for men than for women, but if you are a man who says, actually, I don't watch porn, in fact, you are much more likely to be a wonderful partner for some woman who actually cares much more and gets more sexual pleasure yourself, but actually is able to provide more. But you are understood by society to be out of the loop, somehow weird, like what's that about, right? And that is backwards. That is the backwards version of what should actually be understood with regard to how porn is twisting especially young men's visions of what sex is and what relationship is and what sexual pleasure can be, and similarly casual sex. But
yes,
a little different.
Well, so we belittle women who do not sign up for we society belittle women for not signing up for symmetry with men, which, as you point out here, is absurd because we shouldn't expect them to have a symmetrical view. Mm-hmm. Now, men are certainly wired to find the prospect of commitmentless sex very exciting because it's such an evolutionary bargain, right? And the point, I don't know if we've made this point anywhere exactly, but I would argue, we have made this argument in several different places that men have two reproductive strategies, the no investment one and the high investment one. And the high investment one is not the same as the female strategy, but it's similar. And the level of investment and the level of choosiness.
Just so we're consistent, it's 3.
Well, I'm going to lump
Okay.
So one of them obviously is rape, which has happened far too much. Mm-hmm. I mean, any is too much, but the point is there's been a lot of it, and it is a no investment strategy. And so, I think
it's not useful to lump them. Because for the following reason, there are broadly speaking, there are 3 male reproductive strategies. There is rape, which should be universally understood to be deplorable, and we should try to minimize that to 0. There is the love them and leave them.
The CAD.
There are a lot of these, but one of your students also had
sew and go.
The sew and go strategy, which is the strategy that has historically been only a male strategy, but which now women are being encouraged to engage in. And then there is the investment with a partner and in the children that result strategy, which we don't have a fancy name for, and that's maybe part of why it's not as obviously sexy. But you were lumping those first 2 together, yeah. And I don't think that's useful because it will be harder for those people who are finding success with sew and go. It's like, hey, this is fun. Like, what? I'm not a rapist. Like, what are you doing? Why would you lump me with that?
You're right. Yeah. It was my error to lump them. And one of the reasons that it's my error is because what I said is that men are wired to find commitmentless sex exciting.
And
the point is,
and some cretins do it one way and some do it another way.
Right. And I would point out, just flag for later, one of the insane things that we are allowing to happen is an awful lot of rape play in porn and elsewhere. And this is normalizing that, which is making it more likely to occur in the world, when in fact what we need to do is take the potential for rape and rule it out at the software level, right? Societally, we need to discourage.
That's actually not okay.
Right. But nonetheless, let's take the two strategies that are short of force of men. Okay. So you've got one strategy, which is sow and go, no investment, and the other strategy, which is high investment and is yin yang symmetrical with the female strategy. One of these, the sow and go strategy, is antagonistic. Okay. The high investment strategy is collaborative. And so, in my opinion, we ought to be discouraging antagonistic sexual relations. It's bad for society. It's bad for the people who participate in them. Do I want to tell you you're not allowed to do that? No, you're allowed to do it. But do I think it's a good idea? No, right? It's like, if you own a beautiful house, should you, go at it with a sledgehammer and have a bonfire in the living room? No, you shouldn't. Should you be allowed to? I guess, but it's not wise, right? So anyway, I don't know whether that distinction will land for people or not, but I think the point, I think it's liable to be less intuitive for women, because if you're not a man, you may not understand that this is actually one of the attractions that men have for women is not collaborative or flattering, right?
Right.
It's predatory. And the fact is, yes, we can make it low consequence. So the predatory, it's play predation, but basically the idea of sticking a woman with a pregnancy and not intending to take care of that consequence, yes, it's an evolutionary bargain, and so might invading your neighbor country because they don't have a lot of weapons, right? It's not just because it's an evolutionary winner doesn't make it defensible.
That's right.